never been a musical with so heartwarming a story. So come on along and step out with Fred Astaire as Daddy Longlegs and his loveliest entertainment date, Leslie Caron, the Lily Girl, who makes it all the way from Paris to the Waldorf. And there's Terry Moore.
Our guest today is Academy Award-nominated actress Terry Moore. Miss Moore has either starred or co-starred in dozens of classic films, including Come Back Little Sheba, Between Heaven and Hell, Peyton Place, pretty much everything you'd see on a typical TCM broadcasting day. It's a tremendous thrill to welcome Terry Moore to the program today. Miss Moore, thank you so much for agreeing to spend some time with us.
Well, I look forward to it. Thank you.
I always ask this of actors I speak to because everybody has a different story. When you were a little girl, did you see someone on stage or see someone in the movies and think to yourself, boy, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life?
I think that must have been it. I think it was Shirley Temple and Jane Withers. I was younger than they were. I became friends with both of them later, and I even got to wear some of Shirley Temple's clothes when I worked at 20th Century Fox. And I broke in, I think she started at 4. I was going to start at 4 but got the measles, so I didn't make it into movies till I was 10.
So you were a late bloomer then, I guess.
Yes, late bloomer, right.
And right out of the gate, I mean, at the very start of your career, you co-starred with two of the most famous comedians in movie history, Laurel and Hardy in 1942's A Haunting We Will Go.
Yes. Wasn't that something? I think there's only 3 of us still living who worked with him, and I'm living next door to where Stan Laurel lived and died.
What were Laurel and Hardy like to work with?
Well, I love comedians. I was so close to Bob Hope. I mean, I just think they're the greatest. And Dean and Jerry, they don't let up ever. They're always funny when you're working with them. Even funnier off screen.
Gags, they've got 'em. Giggles, they give 'em. They call it A Haunting We Will Go. We call it amusing when they run amok among the mugs and the magicians. You'll be agog with surprise and hilarity.
Of course, one of your most famous co-stars was Mighty Joe Young. This film, released in 1949, has become a classic. I mean, when I was growing up, it was seemingly on television at least 4 times a year. And generations of audiences have embraced this film. But often you hear that an actor or actress who was cast in a monster movie wasn't exactly thrilled about being in a movie like Mighty Joe Young. What was your feeling at the time?
You know something? It's funny you're saying that. I was almost ashamed to be in the movie at the time, and I loved all the people I worked with. I mean, Ernest Schoedsack was just the nicest director ever, and Marion C. Cooper and Ben Johnson and all of them. And when I look back on it, it's one of the nicest periods of my life, and I've seen the movie recently, and I was thrilled with it. I loved it. I just loved it. It's funny to say that about your own movie, but I'm so thrilled to be in it now. And people ask me about Mighty Joe Young. I said he's now living in Africa, got a wonderful condo, very happy.
Well, I'm assuming that was all done with green screen or chroma key, so you had to act with nothing there.
Well, you didn't see the gorilla? I did.
Okay.
He was very dear to my heart.
Well, we won't spoil the illusion for
no,
people.
Never.
Never.
No, I wouldn't let my own illusion be spoiled.
Here's the kind of movie you're waiting to see as John Ford and Marion C. Cooper present Mighty Joe Young. whose sensational exploits will startle you, thrill you, electrify you with hair-raising excitement and suspense. See Mighty Joe Young as he savagely resists capture in his native Africa.
Joe!
See the most fantastic relationship between beast and beauty, a mere girl mastering a primitive giant. See Mighty Joe Young, enraged by Hollywood pranksters, destroy Filmland's swankiest nightclub on the fabulous Sunset Strip.
People forget that was a big special effects achievement, that film, and that was such a creative time in Hollywood. I mean, the technology was really catching up with the movies.
Yes, and Robert Wagner and I made the first CinemaScope movie ever, which was Beneath the 12-Mile Reef.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did another CinemaScope movie with Tyrone Power, who is the kindest human being I've ever known. And he was the number one pilot. He was a Marine. He shot down more planes in World War II than any other Marine. And gorgeous, gorgeous. And his darling son, Tyrone Power, he must be the fifth or sixth by now, because his grandfather was my Tyrone's grandfather was a huge star, a stage star, so was his great-grandfather.
Now, when you're working with a star like that, a Tyrone Power, did your knees buckle or anything like that, or you kept it professional?
Oh, no, my eyes started twitching. And what do you do? And he was so cute. I mean, he saw that, and he said, Henry, to Henry King, and Henry King directed Maryland, the first movie I'd ever made. He said, do you mind? I'm not really secure in my lines. He was always secure in his lines. If Miss Moore and I go over and sit under that tree and rehearse them. And he said, not at all, Ty. He knew what he was doing. And we went there, and, of course, he calmed my nerves, and we went in, and of course, what do they start? With a love scene. Who wouldn't be nervous to do a love scene with the most gorgeous man, the biggest star in the world?
Who was your favorite actor to play against?
Well, probably Tyrone.
Yeah.
And my favorite director was Elia Kazan, which I did Man on a Tightrope with. And, of course, I played opposite Frederick March, who was the best actor. He had 2 Academy Awards, a Tony, and an Emmy Award.
He was a quadruple threat.
Oh, yes. And such a nice man. The bigger the star, the nicer they are.
Frederick March portrays the man on a tightrope in this stranger-than-fiction real-life drama, along with Terry Moore, churning in a torrent of emotions, tasting each kiss as if it were the last.
We're talking with legendary actress Terry Moore today on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop, and if I could, I'd like to ask you about a few more of your famous leading men, beginning with Victor Mature.
Oh, what a guy.
Yeah.
Terrific guy. I loved root beers, and so did he, but he wanted to have more kick, so he mixed it with Coca-Cola. That was his big drink, Coca-Cola and root beer.
Wild living on the studio lot.
He had what every actor needs. He was, he was childlike, but brilliant.
Another one of my favorite actors was Mickey Rooney, and you made 2 pictures with Mickey Rooney.
I made 2 with Mickey, and I mean, imagine, Mickey kept the MGM alive, and look at all the musicals that Mickey made and everything else. And I remember one day he got news that his father died, and he went in and did a whole page of dialogue by heart, and then came out and cried.
Wow.
I mean, he was a showman. Oh, he was unreal. I'm so thrilled to have worked with Mickey and to have been his friend. He was my friend right to the end.
Come on, help me!
I've thrown back bigger ones than this.
What kind of a crack was that? Freddie!
The name of that film from 1950 was He's a Cockeyed Wonder with Mickey Rooney and our guest today, Terry Moore. Of course, 2 years later, 1952 would bring us Come Back Little Sheba, opposite Burt Lancaster. And this, as I mentioned, is just one of those classic
Back Little
films.
Sheba, I got an Academy Award nomination for, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Turk, the Delaney's will hear us. We'll give a girl the chance to breathe.
Who's the guy?
That's Bruce. He wants to marry me.
Can he kiss like I can?
Better, he's perfect. And he's in love with me.
Sure, that's why he's there and I'm here.
But he'll be here tomorrow.
What are you trying to pull? I don't go for this.
Look, I only meant...
I know what you meant. You dames, you're always playing one of us against the other. Him you gonna tell is a guy named Turk hanging around.
Turk, I don't want to fight.
Oh, I do.
Turk, I want to...
Okay. But don't you come teasing around me anymore.
And it's timely that we're speaking to you because the Academy Awards are coming up. Do you watch the Academy Awards every year?
I usually go to them every year.
Well, of the nominees, I'm going to take a guess and say that La La Land was your favorite movie of the year.
No, you will never get my favorite.
Oh, what is your favorite?
Hacksaw Ridge.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, my God, I've seen it 5 times. That Mel Gibson directed it.
Oh, okay. That's the soldier who refused to hold a gun,
it's
right?
It's a true story. He got the Medal of Honor. It is so fantastic, and I cry every time. I love La La Land, but you know, I danced with Fred Astaire myself when I remember all the Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland musicals and the Debbie Reynolds and Ginger Rogers and Rita Hayworth, and you know that every actress nearly at that time was a great singer and dancer. We had to take lessons every day to sing and dance. Or we had Deanna Durbin and Gloria Jean, and we had all these, Ann Blythe. They were all fantastic singers. They were so much better that La La Land just doesn't compare to the old MGM or RKO musicals.
Well, let me ask you about Daddy Longlegs. We played the trailer for it at the beginning of this. Working with Fred Astaire had to have been incredible. Did you have to go through rigorous dance training?
Oh, yes. But, you know, you're so thrilled you're with Fred Astaire. Who cares? You're young. I mean, the more rigorous, the better.
Now, I know that in your personal life, you married Howard Hughes.
That's right.
And can you tell me about the first time you met him?
Yes, I ran into Johnny Mascio and an agent, and he was always... my boyfriend and I, Jerome Cortland, who we call Kojo, were always running into him, and he always wanted us to go here or there with him, and we never could. And he finally said, we better go because he's a friend of my mother's. So we went to have a soda at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. We were sitting there in the dining room, and he looked across the room, and he said, oh, there's Howard Hughes. Are you alone? Come join us. And he gets up, this tall, lanky guy, and I'm thinking, Howard Hughes, Howard Hawks. I'm trying to place him. John Huston. And he comes over, and he sits with us, and every time anyone would ask him a question, he'd look straight at me and answer. He wouldn't take his eyes off of me. I just couldn't stand that. I didn't like him. And he asked us to go flying, Jerome and me, Kojo. And Kojo quickly said yes. I said no. He kicked me under the table. And so we went and we started flying. And I ended up learning to fly. And Kojo wanted to go because he wanted to play him on the screen. Howard was 6'4", Kojo was 6'5". And he started inviting my parents and me to see movies at Goldwyn Studios, where his offices were at night. And I would talk to him on the phone. He was so interesting and fascinating. And I told Kojo, I said, you know, I can't believe it. I can't wait to get home to talk to Howard. He said, I think you're falling in love with him. I said, you're crazy. He said, no. And why don't you go out with him? I said, go out with him? Never. He said, why not? And I thought, why not? And I did. And that was the beginning.
Now, he has been portrayed in various movies over the years, and I guess the biggest one is the film The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio. So I'm curious.
I worked with Leo on that.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, he came to talk to me about Howard, and I had some tapes of Howard and me talking, and he was thrilled to have those, and I gave him a copy of my book, The Beauty and the Billionaire, and he said he cried twice when he read it. And then Warren Beatty came and talked to me for 12 hours. There's a new one, out that Warren's done.
Right.
It's not a true story, but boy, does he ever capture the essence of Howard when he was older. It's called Rules Don't Apply.
Yes, of course. And speaking of new movies and new projects, I think it's so wonderful that here you are. You started in movies in the 1940s, and you're still acting in movies and television.
I just finished doing a Ray Donovan, and before that I did True Detective, and I'm going to do a faith-based movie. I spoke to the casting director last night, which I'd love to do.
And do you still get the same thrill and the same interest of acting today? More, huh?
The more I work, the more thrill I get.
I guess that's the secret.
Yes, it is, because I love it so much. That's when I'm happiest. Don't you find that with your radio career?
Sure. It's one of those things. You wake up in the morning and say, I can't wait to go and do a radio show. And people might think you're crazy, but it's what keeps you going.
No, everyone would love to do what you're doing.
And they'd love to do what you're doing, too, I'll tell you.
We're lucky.
We are. I want to thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us, and I hope that we can do it again sometime.
Well, I would love to, because I've loved every moment of it. God bless you and have a wonderful day.
You too. Have a great rest of your day.